I don't know how to term it. It's not panic, but yeah, there are players on this team who aren't thrilled. And I think, you look at the comments that Mac Jones had the other day. I mean, when, the first question out of the box was something about like, oh, how do you think the installation of the scheme's going? And he basically, unprompted, he comes out and he's like, yeah, the aim isn't to have me running around all that much, but the offensive line is doing a great job. And for Mac Jones to come out unprompted and basically just say, yeah, I have no time to throw the ball. Like, for him to come out and say that for a guy who's been at Alabama and Nick Saban and now with the Patriots where you don't say anything, it should set off alarm bell. I think Mac Jones is very frustrated. And I think that a guy like, possibly like David Andrews is also frustrated, where they look at it and they say to themselves, like, what the hell are we doing?
So we know the Patriots have made some serious changes to their scheme this offseason, which is probably for the best when you no longer have Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels. We've seen in practice that they're adding some Shanahan wrinkles to their scheme. Obviously, the Shanahan/McVay outside zone scheme has had a tremendous amount of success across the league recently. There's plenty of jet motion and play action boot plays along with heavy outside zone runs. The receivers often line up in bunches to make the play call less predictable and allow the offense to play faster. Mac Jones even admitted that they were lining up in bunches more often this year. It's especially effective against a modern-day NFL defense that prides itself on speed instead of size. It has also been proven as a good way to develop quarterbacks or take a quarterback to another level. We've seen this with several guys having career years in this system like Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo, and a resurgence in Aaron Rodgers. The main problem I have with this idea is that they didn't actually bring in anyone from the Shanahan tree. You look at the top of the offensive coaching chart and you see Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Both guys have spent their entire assistant coaching lives in the NFL as Patriots assistants. This scheme is difficult to learn for offensive linemen because most of the actions they'll be doing are a bit unique to this scheme. I guess it shouldn't be very surprising to hear that the first day of padded practices for the Patriots was a disaster on the O-line, full of false starts and no gains. A story from Sports Illustrated last year had a quote from Mike Shanahan saying the system takes years to implement. I know an outside zone run isn't a foreign concept to the Patriots, but it's certainly not something they ever relied on. So honestly, maybe this scheme change is a change for the future of the team and less of a payoff for this season. I'd expect some dramatic ups and downs as the offense attempts to figure it all out. With Patricia in charge of the O-line and the favorite to call plays this year, it really shows how this Patriots season could end up relying on the mind and coaching ability of good old Matty P. I've previously questioned putting Patricia in charge of this offense and how it could be a dramatic decline from McDaniels, but at the very least, he has been an assistant O-line coach before he switched to defense for the rest of his career. The reason I'm focusing so much on Patricia is because the O-line coach is crucial to the Shanahan scheme. That's why the 49ers are thought to be paying Chris Forrester as one of the highest paid assistants in the league. And it's why they gave him more power as the run game coordinator after Mike McDaniel left for the Dolphins. Speaking of McDaniel, his personality is a wild card for a head coach, but I have no doubt that he can implement the Shanahan scheme in his offense better than Patricia can for the Patriots. Looking back, though, this scheme change must have been at the forefront of Belichick's mind during the first round of the draft, when they selected Cole Strange, who had great success in Chattanooga's zone schemes. So when you look at how they might have greatly overdrafted Strange, it makes a lot more sense when you consider how valuable he could be during this phase of changing schemes. And of course, who else was interested in Strange? Sean McVay. This will also be a big change for their two talented running backs, Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, who led the NFL in gap-styled runs last year. They'll now more often have to choose a running lane post-snap instead of hitting a hole designed by the play. I'm high on Stevenson this year. Of course, in order for him to flourish, he's going to need the O-line to play a heck of a lot better than they did in their first practice. Trent Brown has been moved to left tackle, and in the past, he's had more success on zone runs. So if you want a glass half full approach, you've got that at least. It's also important to remember that the Patriots have eliminated the fullback position. It's likely that they'll just have a tight end like Jonnu Smith in that role when they need it, but that also speaks to how much Belichick is really changing things up on offense this year. While we're on the topic of Jonnu Smith, they desperately need him to bounce back this year, and the scheme change could be good for him as well, with him previously playing in Arthur Smith's offense, which is very similar to the Shanahan style. Obviously, Kendrick Bourne, with him coming from the 49ers, has experience with it as well. Bourne, along with Hunter Henry, built up great chemistry with Mac last year, and I think they'll be able to maintain that. Devontae Parker has been the bright spot for this offense in camp. He's basically what they wanted N'Keal Harry to be, as a contested catch threat and red zone focus. Of course, Jacoby Myers has been quite productive and really is one of the more underrated players in the league. I want to say this offense will improve, but I'm just kind of worried about the coaching. Belichick has clearly been focusing more on the offense this year, which is a stark contrast to previous years where he pretty much let McDaniels do and control everything. I really think he should have tried to pry someone away from the Niners, Rams, or Packers to help with these scheme changes. But hey, he's seen a lot of football, so maybe his focus can make a difference. Now, even with those legitimate questions, I'm still excited to see Mac Jones this year. He's proven he can be a good decision maker and accurate quarterback. One of the key improvement areas will be throwing deep. Part of that is his personnel, and once again, the Patriots went and drafted a player early to fill such a need. Tyquan Thornton, as a second rounder, is a bit unpolished, yet extremely fast vertical threat. His snap count might end up depending on how well he can perform against Nelson Aguilar. But if they can establish more of a deep threat, that will prevent opponents from stacking the box like we saw several times last year. Belichick was really hyping the improvements from Mac this summer. You can take that any way you'd like, but he also called Devon Godchaux one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Bill is on an island with that take. I was actually so shocked to hear it that I looked at ESPN's recent NFL coach and executive survey, and not a single one voted for Godchaux as a top 10 player at his position. So clearly Belichick was not surveyed, and yeah, Godchaux just isn't at that level. For some reason, maybe ex-players' comments about Bill being too harsh, his heart has grown 3 times the size of what it used to be. Alright, now a couple notes on the Patriots defense before we wrap things up. I'm a big fan of defensive tackle Christian Barmore and linebacker Josh Uche. I've been begging them to give Uche more playing time for multiple seasons in a row now. Matt Judon is their most productive player on defense, but he sort of fell off at the end of last season. They need to make sure we see first half Judon for the entire season this year. Safety is consistent as can be with Devin McCourty and Kyle Duggar, plus Jonathan Jones as a slot corner whenever he's healthy again. My big concern is outside corner with J.C. Jackson gone. I was a big fan of Jackson, but now they've got Jalen Mills, who has proven he can play inside and outside. I think he's better inside, but they need bodies on the outside. And then as the second outside corner, Terrence Mitchell is the favorite. Malcolm Butler and their 2 rookie corners are also in competition for it. Apparently Mitchell has looked pretty good in camp, but I'm still kind of worried about that spot. That's all we've got for today. Let me know what you guys think about the scheme changes, and be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this.